All right, students, we have Manhattan Melodies and more because your geek history lesson on the best superhero scores is now in session. Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason Bones Inman. Welcome to your Mind University, because this is Geek History Lesson, the podcast where we explore one character, one construct, or one team in pop culture and tell you everything you need to know about them in a little bit less than an hour. Except for today, we're not doing any of that. We are tackling sort of a list, but also this is very unique because we have a very special guest today. And we have a very special musical episode for today, because today we are going to tackle the best superhero movie scores. Now, this is not, of course, objective lists. We always like to do favorite lists or personal favorites for ourselves. And to do that, we needed somebody who could musically play on a podcast, if you will. Now, I'm not saying that Ashley can't play an instrument. You should hear her play the flute. She's amazing. But we have not figured out how to podcast that yet. And so we brought in somebody who could podcast their instrument. And that is, Ashley, would you like to introduce this lovely, lovely gentleman?
My Instagram boyfriend, sweet human, incredibly talented, and co-host of the Settle the Score show. We have the dashing, the English Andy Merryweather joining us today.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi, welcome.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited and very honored, and thank you very much for having me on.
What a polite English gentleman, sir. So, Andy, just to let the listeners know, you are on the other side of the pond. You are, where exactly are you in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, I'm in Oxfordshire. I guess during holidays and anytime I've been in America, it tends to be that you reference London and say how far you are in a radius from London. So I'm about 45 minutes outside of London, and Oxfordshire for movie fans is basically where Harry Potter was filmed. So it's all capes and broomsticks around here.
All right, straight from Hogwarts.
What a dream.
I love it. Andy, so you are, I'm going to just throw it out there right now, Geek History Lesson is going to proclaim you as an expert piano player. How long have you been playing piano?
The answer to that question is that I can't remember starting. So I used to joke that I had this like creepy alien thing where when my mum was pregnant with me and she was learning to play piano, that my hands would come out from her stomach and start playing with her. And then I started answering, because I have this kind of want for the next generation to be a better piano player than me, because my uncle taught me, and he said one of his proudest moments is realizing that I had superseded him in ability. And I have that want, and I don't have children, but it'd be nice. So when a child or a parent of a child want to know in reference to their child how long it's been since I started playing, I just find out the age of that kid and say, I started learning at that age. And that becomes like a thing that I've kind of learned to do. So if it's a 6-year-old, I say, I learned to play at 6, and hopefully they go home that night and start. And then one day they'll catch me and say, I saw you on tour and like when I was 6 years old and they're better than me now. So that's my kind of thing. So I actually have almost taught myself to forget how long it's been, but I think we're talking about pre-memory making, so 4 or 5 years old.
Pre-memory making. I love that. Now, Andy, let's tell the listeners a little bit about the reason why, when Ashley and I were first thinking about, we've been thinking about it for a while now, how could we do movie scores, something with movie scores in Geek History Lesson, because I listen to movie scores probably more so than any other music, because when I'm writing, I can't really listen to anything with lyrics because it kind of gets into the writing. And I know Ashley is a huge fan of scores as well. Now, you co-host a podcast that listeners should go subscribe to on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the places, called Settle the Score. And you co-host it with the amazing Matt Nost, comedian extraordinaire, pizza owner, and former Schmodown competitor. Tell the listeners a little bit about Settle the Score, because I think once they know about your podcast, they'll be like, oh, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, I was a fan of Matt Nost. I had been to see him live twice as part of the Top 10 podcast, once in London and once in Chicago for the Star Wars celebration. And I kept missing him. So I kept basically being able to see him on stage, but then missing out on a chance to sort of get his ear and tell him, you know, I'm not just a creepy fan, but actually I can probably talk shop and things like that. And I got on really well with Catherine, his wife. We hit it off, and Catherine organized us to meet for lunch. She basically considered that my brain and his brain would merge well together, and we should go for brunch and have a chat. And it was just that. It was lovely. That was our meet cute, is a phrase from the podcast.
Yes,
right?
very well done. Very well done.
So Matt and I talked like science and technology over. We didn't talk music or movies, but Matt's a real science head, so we talked that kind of stuff. And then he needed a theme for the top 10 spin-off, The Golden Ticket, and I put together the theme for that. And he enjoyed working with me, and about a month later, he just pinged me on Messenger on Facebook, just saying, got an idea for a show. Do you fancy it? And the rest is history. Settle the Score is essentially name that tune, but with movie scores and soundtracks. And for anybody listening to this that hasn't heard of it or seen an episode, I would dig out your guys' episode, the Jason Ashley.
Yeah, the
special.
spoilers, the one where Ashley trounces me.
It's
Look,
a
my
really fun
legacy on
episode.
Settle the Score is also not knowing any of the answers in the first round.
No, I would highly recommend it to all our listeners. It's when it first popped, I think you guys started about a year ago or a little bit less than a year ago.
We're 38 weeks in.
Yeah, like I remember.
Oh, almost long enough to have had a baby.
Yeah. I remember when you guys started doing episodes last year, it was right when the pandemic was like starting to get to that point where everybody's like, is this ever going to end? And your podcast was like a bright spot in the pandemic because I love film scores, and to have like a game show basically about guessing the film score was like, oh, this is awesome. I mean, I was, as soon as I saw you guys drop the video last year, I would like be on it. So everybody, I highly recommended that podcast, and Ashley and I are going to appear on it very soon.
Sometime in the
future. I know we're working behind the details in there. All right.
I also want to say that I really like that, Andy, that you shared your story about how you got to know Matt, because I think sometimes people are a little bit nervous to approach people that they look up to or admire or are fans of, and you illustrated, if you're a nice, normal human being, wonderful things can happen.
Well, yeah, I went via the wife. That's the moral of the story. So everyone get in touch with Ashley if you want to hang out with Jason.
That's the back door.
LOL.
All right. So here is how today is going to work, everybody. Ashley has picked her top 3 favorite superhero movie scores. Now, we're not talking about songs from the soundtrack. We're talking about the orchestral scores. I did the same, and so did Andy. And now, Andy, in a random order, is going to play a little snippet from all 9. And when Ashley and I think we know it, we will guess. There is no score. There is no winner. This is all for fun so that we can enjoy Andy's melodic fingers as they dance along a keyboard of musical wonder.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
All right. So, Andy, is the keyboard ready?
Yeah, it's all ready.
It's all greased up and ready to go?
Off because we've been talking too long. Hold on. It turns itself off. It's one of these energy saving things.
Oh, okay.
So
Good.
Let me just put it back on, and hopefully.
Does the keyboard have a name?
It doesn't. Ashley, feel free. You can come up with a name right now, and I promise you, it will be on the next episode of Settle the Score. It will be named. I'm going to imprint it on the piano.
Okay.
Go for it.
Do you have a good idea?
No, let me think about it. I got to pick something appropriate.
It should be like a proud older lady name, I think.
A lady?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't musical instruments are always ladies, I think, right?
I have no idea.
I don't know. What is the... We should ask the musician.
Can you guys... I don't know.
My flute definitely has a man's name, so...
Can you guys hear the piano okay?
Yes, it is. It sounds gorgeous, Andy. All right, so let's just start off, and I'm certain a name will come to us somewhere in this episode. Andy, let's go with the first best superhero movie score choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I will just caveat by saying that not all scores transfer to piano just right. So I have taken liberties. I have taken liberties to just make it sound okay. I want it to sound pretty in the ear. So that's what I've gone for. That's what I do on Settle the Score. It's not always kind of note perfect, but just something nice.
It's just enough for us to recognize and to enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So lay off Andy, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, tweet at me. I don't listen anyway.
Right, here we go.
Jason. Andy, just keep playing. I want to hear that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Do you know this one, Ashley?
Yes. Jason's never going to stop you.
Oh, I know.
I'm done on that.
This is a piece of music. This is the Ma Kent scene from Superman the movie, 1978 Superman the movie. Am I correct?
That's right, Leaving Home.
Yes. This is, oh man, yeah, it's called Leaving Home, right?
Yeah, that's right.
By the incredible John Williams. This is a piece of film music that almost nearly brings me to tears every time I hear it. Like, even you just playing it, I was like, like I'm immediately transported to that shot from that movie where Ma Kent and Clark are standing in the wheat field and they do that giant dolly crane shot. It's him deciding to leave home. The reason why I chose Superman the movie is because Superman the movie by John Williams, I think, is one of the greatest superhero movie scores of all time. Simply for the fact that a lot of people stop at the theme, the basic Superman theme, but I think actually the stronger pieces of music in that are from Krypton, are from the Kansas scenes, are from Metropolis. I actually think there are many, especially the piece of music where Clark gets mad when at the very end of the movie he learns that Lois has died. Like, it turns in this weird cacophony of just explosions and anger, and it's such a what is that? What is that great? Actually, please help me out. What is that great old musical piece where every character has a motif? Is it like Peter the Wolf or Peter the Rabbit?
Peter and the Wolf.
Peter and the Wolf. Thank you. This is very similar to, like, in the 70s, John Williams was doing that, and Superman the movie, I think, definitely deserves to be in this because, like, it's so varied and it's so different. What do you think? Do you enjoy this score, Andy?
Yeah, this is a really beautiful score. I think there's coming from. I don't think I can go head to head with you guys on movie knowledge or comic knowledge, but I think coming from a musical point of view, this has the bones of the. It has the same sort of fourths and fifths in the movements of the notes, and I think what's interesting about this is that Williams could have gone down the route of a much sadder sounding theme, and he kept in like a major scale, which keeps, I think, this sounding hopeful and kind of majestic. I think it's more like a college graduation, or someone leaving to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not quite a march,
departing.
but maybe a fanfare almost.
Yeah, I guess there's that. I mean, like in terms of what a parent might be feeling as a child leaves, it's not so much the upsetting leaving sort of theme, but more of they're going on to better things type feeling. I have an idea for what this might sound like if it was sadder, and I think Williams would have written it in minor. And do you mind if I go?
No, please
just
do.
for a go?
Let's hear this alternate Superman score.
So I think if this was a sadder theme, maybe if in this moment, in a completely different type of movie, Clark has died and his mother has stood over him at the funeral.
Sure.
I think this would be the minor version of this score, and it would go something like this. Something like that, I guess.
It's crazy when you play that. I'm like, that's a Dick Grayson theme.
That's interesting.
I weirdly heard like Snoopy and Peanuts.
I thought it was beautiful.
That was great. That was really, really good. Ashley, Superman the movie deserved to be in the best superhero movie scores. What do you think?
Certainly, and I want to give kudos to Andy for not just playing the theme, which is the most probably the most well-recognized bit
Yep.
of the score, but I have a fun fact about the theme.
Sure.
It was the first piece of music that was recorded for this, and at the initial recording session, the theme made such an impact on Richard Donner, who was the director of the film, that he screamed out, "Genius, fantastic," and ruined the first take. So apparently for a long time, they would pass around the recording of Richard Donner screaming during the Superman
That's awesome.
theme and ruin it for everyone. So I think that's funny. And then, of course, the idea that you can sing Superman along with the theme song.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up, Andy. I don't know if you know this, and I have not been able to find anything that can confirm this, but Christopher Drake, who has scored some of the DC animated films, and he scored like a couple of the Supergirl shows and stuff like that. He talks about that he'd heard a long time ago that you can't really write a Superman theme unless you write Superman into the music. So with that, the idea of the John Williams score is like da 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 Superman da 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 Superman, like it's that. And if you listen to some of the other Superman theme songs,
The animated series does that.
the animated series is like Superman, da 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 Superman, like, and when you learn that, you a lot of the Superman theme songs you could sing, you can just go Superman, like to every one of them. So I've never been able to find that confirmed, but it seems too coincidental to not be true.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't want to kind of ruin anything, but 3 notes tends to be a Williams signature. He does a lot with 3. The number 3, he's very mathematical in that sense, just like we are with our 3 scores adding up to 9. Williams does this often. And now I just believe that he's put Superman into all of his scores. So watching Home Alone, he goes,
honestly, I love that even more.
All right, great. So there was my choice, and
Superman.
yeah, that was Jules. Yep. I think it's all over. All right, Andy, so if you are ready, let's hear another selection from one of our best superhero movie scores. I'm very curious to hear one of yours, Andy. So
No pressure.
No pressure.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
No, do it in whatever order is easiest for you.
Well, I was gonna move to one that is less melodic. We're going for something. Williams is super melodic. You can hum most of his themes, and this one is not. This is the for a little context clue to borrow from Settle the Score. This is going to be more of those modern, what people I think snobbery are calling the anti-score. So here we go.
I know what this is.
Jason, I think I know this. Is this Doctor Strange?
Oh no, it is not Doctor Strange. No.
Okay, sorry. Actually, did you get away? Is this John Williams?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ashley, did you have a little guess?
At first, I thought it was an X-Men movie.
Oh, interesting. They are both really interesting guesses, but forgive me if I've plucked a score that you weren't thinking of regarding your list, but these are the chord changes that occur in What's Up, Danger?
That was my next guess. I was like, it's either one of those or it's a Spider-Verse one. And I knew Spider-Verse is tough because it is so ingrained in the soundtrack as well.
I think that's is it Daniel Pemberton? Am I right on this?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew I recognized it. I just could not place it.
Okay, so I picked Spider-Verse.
Oh, excellent
and
choice.
I knew it was going to be tough because it is so it's so electronically based versus like a classical music. But my favorite moment in Spider-Verse is every time Prowler shows up. He has this sound that's over his it's not a march but like his music. So that's the musical beat that always stands up the most to me. And then the fact that it's one of the only superhero scores where I feel I have a hard time with needle drops in movies, and they're often not very well done. And to integrate both aspects, score and soundtrack, I think Spider-Verse does so incredibly well. So I'm so glad.
Andy, let me ask you a question about this. At the very beginning, you said that some snobs would call this the anti-score. Can you go into that a little bit more? Why would you consider this to be an anti-score?
Sure. It's like scores really became orchestral sort of with the Eric Korngold's, what inspired John Williams essentially. And from then they took a bit of a dip and then they came back, and things like this tend to have a sort of a 30-year cycle. Giacchino's now doing he's playing his part to get these orchestral scores back up and running.
I know. Thank God for Giacchino. The best.
Yes, exactly. But in the meantime, I have no issue with it. Not one of the snobs. But the anti-score is essentially Hans Zimmer's latest work, where there's no discernible notes. It's more of a ambience, and I think there's a quote from John Carpenter that says that the score should be the carpet that the movie walks on, and I think that is now John Carpenter obviously used sort of hooks and themes, but the anti-score is that kind of carpet. It's the carpet that the movie walks on. It doesn't have a character. Like Williams' scores all have character.
Yeah.
They are, a lot of those directors get out of John Williams' way. They essentially let the score have a role in the movie. But modern music in movies tends to have this kind of layering, and it's great. It's really great, but it just doesn't quite work for a pianist to play it. I couldn't play Junkie XL scores, for example, very, very easily.
Yeah, I get that. It's so funny because I would consider this a Spider-Verse score to, even with all the needle drops, to actually be a character in that movie. Because, I mean, the thing I love about film scores...
I agree.
...is that a good film score can elevate a bad movie. Can simply can knock a movie up.
There are bad movies with great scores.
Yeah, no, but
I know you probably considered the Fantastic Four score when we were
Lady in the Water is one of my favorites easily.
Yeah,
not a superhero, but yeah.
The Village has a great score. James Newton Howard. Don't get me started about James Newton Howard. I'm a deep James Newton Howard.
Wait, what did we watch? We watched something the other day where you were like, "Oh, the Postman."
The Postman. The Postman.
So
yeah, it was like it was the only good thing about the Postman, where I was like, well, at least James Newton Howard's score is good. Nothing else from that movie is good. But sorry, everybody that worked on the Postman. We apologize. Anyways. But yeah, like a bad film can be elevated like a letter grade in the review, I feel, if the score is great. And I also think the opposite can happen, that if a really great movie has a bad score, it will knock the movie down. Yeah, it's so interesting. How much do you want your film, your score to carry your movie? Because it can carry your movie completely out of your control if you let it.
Yeah, completely agree. Do you mind if I talk on again the musicianship of the score?
No, please,
Andy.
The sort of narrative. So
you're a guest. Just talk.
So there's a couple of really interesting things going on with these chord sequences. This move, these sort of two moves here, that make up the chords for What's Up Danger and most of the orchestration of the movie that's kind of held in the background, but it's this. Those three moves, that is the James Bond riff.
I was literally going to say it sounds like Skyfall to me.
It is. So surfer music,
There's a few times then when this particular chord sequence will come up. It's quite interesting, especially with Ashley's picks, that she might have a kind of a subconscious love for James Bond music.
It's not subconscious.
Oh, great. But maybe when you're picking superhero scores, you didn't realize it. But yeah, the other thing that's going on is this these three notes that come up in these chords. So as this is played, you get this. And this up, down, up move. That's up, down, up. It's a narrative tool used by composers in order to show a 3-act structure of a character. And so it will be that they, their life is fine, and then they go down into the problem. Act 2's like animosity, and then they're back up for the heroic ending.
Also tying into Miles's theme of stand up, Miles, get up, Miles.
Yeah, exactly. That's really good. And also things like has the up down. It's the same thing.
Superman.
Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Spider-Man.
And you've blown my mind with a little thing about the trills. That's crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Star Wars is laced with it. This up down up. You I don't want to create kind of these narrative earworms, but I'd imagine, Jason, next time you're listening to something with a heroic structure, it will have that up down up move in it.
I look forward to it.
Lord of the Rings has it all through. And
yes, it does.
All right, Andy, how about we dip into another choice of our best superhero movie scores?
Absolutely. Oh, just a PS on that particular score, just because I had a note on it. It's nothing I can play, but the percussion in it is clearly designed to sound like spider legs. So throughout this kind of, it's going. Like
Danny Elfman did something very similar in his Spider-Man scores.
That's
as well.
exactly right.
Yeah.
That is exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
The two chords for Danny Elfman, and it's so Danny Elfman are, I think it's a D minor to an A flat, and they do not go together. And as soon as I play these two chords, you should just see the movie Spider-Man in front of you. It goes.
Yeah.
It's just.
But they're not completely dissonant, so that's interesting.
Spider-Man.
Excellent.
I think we're just going to sing the title of every one of these. All right, Andy, whenever you're ready, let's hear the next one, good sir.
Right, I am going to get my. I didn't get approval for this. It's a curveball. It doesn't technically go. I think it's owed a place, and I think there's a. I can talk more on how this particular medium has evolved into belonging on this particular episode, and I can obviously throw in an alt if this doesn't apply. But I have gone curveball because I think this is owed a place just in terms of like how it sounds on the ear.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. But I should have asked permission for this.
It's fine.
Okay. Here we go.
I know this song somehow. I cannot pull this song. I know it. Wow, Andy, you stumped me.
Well,
I know this song
I've cheated. I have cheated. So I'll let you off the hook because I have cheated. It's my fault. Okay. So this is Marvel Spider-Man from the PS4. So I know it's not a movie. I know it's not a movie thing.
That's a great score.
Video games now have evolved to a place where, for Anna, for example, my fiance, who by the time this comes out, I might have married. We'll see how I get on. But
if everything goes right,
yeah. But she will watch me play Miles Morales or The Last of Us, and she watches them like a movie. Mm-hmm. I even sweep the camera around on purpose because she's watching it along with me, and she won't let me play them without her watching because it's like watching the next episode of a series you're watching together as a couple. Mm-hmm. They're very cinematic.
Yes,
and this score is just. It's just too good.
It is
to
really
not have
good.
a place. And I know we're not going to come back and do a version 2 where we do video game scores, or I'll be happy to.
Don't say that's not going to happen.
Listeners,
I'll throw a movie one on in that episode.
Listeners, if you want us to do best video game scores, Ashley, where can they suggest that?
You can suggest that at GHL Podcast, hashtag GHL Andy Yes.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Uncharted is definitely going to be in there.
Oh, Uncharted.
I'm just going to make you play Mario music over and over.
Well, Mario definitely.
Jason, can you hum the Uncharted?
I cannot, but I know it was. You're talking about these great cinematic scores. Henry Gregor Williamson did the score for all the Uncharted games. Same guy that did the score for the first Wonder Woman movie. So it is a beautiful, beautiful theme. But no, I could not hum it off the top of my head. But I think when I played it, it was all over my head.
Hold on, I'm going to get it for you.
Now it's a mission.
I can confirm that there was no edit.
No, absolutely. We don't edit
This was
podcast.
live, everybody. This was live. Andy pulled that out. Holy cow, dude.
Oh,
Well done.
that is my party trick. That is, hopefully you guys get to visit one day. That is the party trick where people just shout things at me and I play them. The Uncharted theme is somewhere bedded. I played all four games through, and you put in more hours to these video games than you would for any movie, even on repeat.
Yeah.
And those scores get embedded, and that's why you instantly recognize the Marvel's Spider-Man. I'm assuming you've played it through. So
Before we move on, Andy, give us a reminder who composed the score for Spider-Man PS4. Do you remember?
yeah, it's John Pisano, I think you say his name.
Yep.
He did the Maze Runner trilogy, and he's done like Mass Effect and things like that.
Yeah, that is something. When I remember when I first kicked up Spider-Man PS4, just hearing the music over the start screen was amazing. Like, it is a really good, and it's so funny because I actually think Spider-Man has one of the hardest, I think he's one of the hardest superheroes to come up with a theme for.
Because he has a song that he's the theme song.
Yes, but also because like Spider-Man also shouldn't traditionally have a traditional, very similar to Doctor Strange, should not have a traditional superhero theme. So like, it's always very, I will say this, I was not a fan of the Alan Horner theme from The Amazing Spider-Man. But because I thought it was too heroic and too many trumpets, but I was a fan of what Michael Giacchino did for his Spider-Man MCU movies. But the PS4 game is brilliant as well. It's really good.
Yeah, and so apologies that the movies is in the title of this, but yeah, I think, and this lends itself to what I was saying about the anti-score. There is a reason why I went in this order. So where movies are now hitting what those snobs call the anti-score, video games are just hitting their stride. I guess a correlation would be video games are just getting to the talkies era in terms of the way the movies have, and with regard to the music, it's so much orchestration. So they've gone from this 8-bit, they only had so much memory to put in kind of melodic scores, and now they've gone for full orchestration with PS4 and PS5 being Blu-ray discs. They're able to put a full orchestration on it, and so really video games are hitting those orchestral, melodic, sort of Williams Korngold style scores that we've been missing in films a little bit. Yeah, and that's why Giacchino sort of he cuts his teeth over there, and he still enjoys going back to video games, is because that's where the space is to really play and put your scores together.
Mm-hmm. All right, Andy, let's hear another choice on our best superhero movie score list.
Great.
There it is.
You guys have got
Doctor
that obviously straight away.
Strange. Doctor Strange.
I hear my theme song. Doctor Strange. All right, yes, Doctor Strange. It's so funny. Speaking of Giacchino, the master, I remember they released, I believe this title of that track, that's a sort of the fanfare they play over the end credits, is it's Master of the Mystic Arts, Andy, I think. They released that 2 weeks before the movie came out.
Do you know this movie didn't have a temp track?
When they were editing it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
So all the music was composed in service of the initial cut.
Wow.
Which I can't imagine how stressful that is. And also, here's a fun fact just for Jason. During the recording session, Paul McCartney heard one of Giacchino's cues being recorded, and he compared it to I Am the Walrus.
I just think, they hear the music over there with Doctor Strange, and it sounds a little bit more like me and John were working on over there. With the hoobity and the dibbity bobbity shit. Very nice. Sorry, apologies on my bad.
Liver puddly.
Yeah, if Paul McCartney enters the podcast, we're going to do it, He compared it to I Am the Walrus.
Yeah.
All right.
Go
ahead, Andy.
No temp track on this is very interesting because when I hear the Strange score, I feel like it's a hybrid, and the hybrid that I hear are both productions with Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm sure you know them both. So just a reminder of what Doctor Strange sounds like. goes up a step to this E flat. And what I hear in my ear is a hybrid of this.
Interesting. Star Trek. Giacchino Star Trek score.
So same chord structure essentially, and then also if I can remember how this goes.
That's Sherlock, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
And I hear both of those. The orchestration sounds a bit like Sherlock, like a David Arnold Sherlock, or it has a bit of Doctor Who about it. And then the actual melody sounds a bit like Star Trek. And yeah, basically
What a
Benedict
weird
Cumberbatch belongs in all these.
Venn diagram.
You know, I'll say
really
this:
is, yeah.
the BBC Sherlock series has an amazing score. Every season of that show has an amazing score. But I wanted. It was so funny, and Ashley can confirm this, that before we even saw Doctor Strange, I was like listening to that fanfare on repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks, just because I thought it was so good.
Was that one of the track lists that spoiled something, and then they walked back the cameo at the end? Or was that Guardians?
That was Guardians.
Okay.
You're getting yeah.
Intern Brego currently trying to get into the closet.
He's climbing up some shelves. GHL intern Cat Brego walked into this room right as Andy was playing Star Trek, so I think that's a sign. That's cool. No, I'm glad. More Giacchino all the way. I've actually said for a long time that I kind of think that Giacchino is the heir apparent to to John Williams.
I've said exactly the same thing.
And I kind of want him to take the baton of Star Wars. You know, like just every Star Wars movie going forward is scored by Giacchino, and he's only done Rogue One so far. But
I met him on the red carpet for Doctor Strange.
Yeah. He's a very nice fella.
He's very nice.
All right, Andy. Go ahead.
I can tell you one difference between Williams and Giacchino, and it's all to do with evolution. If you guys are into sports, or even if you think back to Rocky Balboa, basically. There's this whole thing about the best of the best in their era are only the best of the best because someone came before them, that they can, standing on the shoulders of giants and that kind of thing. And like the best footballers now, I'm a football fan, Messi and Ronaldo are only the best in the world and the best ever because of Pele and Maradona. Now they're better than those guys, but there's nutrition and equipment and pitch time, all this kind of stuff factors in. But Giacchino, in my opinion, it's really, really difficult to admit this, but I think Giacchino's evolved scores of Jurassic Park and Star Wars are actually greater than Williams. And I know that's horrible to say, but just how my ear treats it. But Giacchino, the difference between them is Giacchino can write the same score and have it slowed down and sound like the opposing feeling of that score. Williams has to write something else. If Williams writes a happy score, it sounds happy or powerful or super heroic. Williams will then have to rewrite and write something else to make a sad scene, where Giacchino writes the same music, he just slows it down, and he has this very complex way of putting a score together. And this theme
from Up.
Yeah, it's exactly the same notes when it's the happy. When you slow the same notes down, it's just sad. It's upsetting.
Witchcraft, I'd say.
Yeah, it's very, very clever. It's a way of using major sevenths that Giacchino, you can tell he's a pianist, but that's something you can do with all his scores, and he does it. He writes these leitmotifs and then just slows them down, and he doesn't need to change them to minor, and that's why I use that example of making Leaving Home a sadder score. I had to change the chord structure. It's very, very clever, but he only got that way. This is why I want to give Williams credit, just in case he tunes in. Giacchino only got that way because he was standing on the shoulders of a giant.
To your point, though, I mean, with evolution, you should be, right? Every subsequent generation of whether it's creators, athletes, or entities in a species, we should all be a little bit better.
I want to bring that up.
Yeah.
I want to bring that up, the Giacchino thing, because it's so funny, because you can find everyone out there. I've not been quiet about my love for the TV series Lost on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You can find...
Do you want me to just play over you whilst you're playing?
Oh, yeah, please.
Just the Lost thing.
No, he's playing Leaving Home.
I know.
Or LAX, as some would call it. There's all these videos that you can find on the internet where he has the character themes, like because Giacchino gave every character their own theme, and there will people that will have tracked down all the alternates or the changes that he makes to that character's theme by like putting it into a minor chord or like, and so it's so awesome that you brought that up, Andy, because I had forgotten about that fact until you just brought it up, and I was like, oh yeah, he did that all throughout Lost. So he would write Saeed or Jack one theme, and then he would just keep like just slightly tweaking it depending on the scene.
That's really interesting. I hadn't heard that, but I'm glad I was corroborated. That's very good. Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, I'm very excited about this. Andy, you are dropping so much music knowledge that I feel like I went to music school and I didn't even know
it. I appreciate that. Right, so let's move away from that to this one. I feel like you guys are going to get this reasonably quickly. Here we go.
Oh, don't say that.
Well,
too much pressure.
Let me think.
Hot take. Best superhero theme. My favorite.
all Wonder Woman by Hans Zimmer. Andy, real quick, how difficult is that to play?
It's not nice to play. There's this the octaves going up here are absolutely fine. My hands have grown just the right amount to play an octave. But this I'll slow it right down so you guys can hear exactly what I'm playing. You know what? Alongside this episode, I'll do a little Twitter video and I'll tag you guys and you can watch exactly.
Please
what
do.
Please
do.
So it goes.
Dissonance.
So there's this kind of your little finger and your thumb are kind of bookending this rhythm, and then your three fingers in the middle are hitting these chords. It reminds me of the rhythm that I have to play Angry Young Man in by Billy Joel. That kind of...
That'll get a shutdown on YouTube real quick, Andy. Stop.
Oh, sorry. No.
I'm kidding.
But yeah,
so it's going to be Billy
it has
Joel.
that kind of that offbeat where you're doing these pairs of chords that are they're very weirdly off beat, because this doesn't sound like it, but I think this is in 4/4. It just sounds an odder time signature than that. So difficulty is once I've learned it, I'll never forget it. It's one of those. It has enough complexity that it will embed in my long-term memory. But it's not too bad. I would recommend anyone having a little go at it just for the rhythm. You'll notice that your fingers have to do things. I have these little tricks that I'll do at the dinner table where I try and get people to emulate what my fingers can do, just like tapping. And it has that about it. Like if you haven't spent years and years and years, making your fingers independent of each other, then it might be a little trickier.
I like this theme so much because it sounds minor compared to a lot of other superhero themes. So if it's a little bit sad, I'm going to like it more than anything else in the world.
This was your pick, correct?
This was my pick.
Why?
Yes.
Why you made that statement like best superhero theme ever?
Yeah,
Why?
There's a lot of things about Wonder Woman that I can't necessarily explain to you. Besides, I'm a woman and she is also.
Wait. What?
I know this might.
What?
Look, the comments really know this.
Oh, okay.
And it's like seeing a picture of yourself, but like it's my favorite, and it's the theme is so energizing. It in a lot of ways harkens back to the Pacific Rim theme for me. I know they don't sound a lot alike, but when you listen to that theme, you're just like, I could go run a mile, no problem. And that's what the Wonder Woman theme does for me. I think it's so cool, so beautiful. I love that it's on a cello, and an electric cello at that, because you don't get a ton of like cello up front and center, specifically for like superheroes. And when they were writing this, apparently Hans Zimmer went to a number of different musicians trying to see who was going to play the theme, and then eventually settled on, I believe it's Tina Guo is the last name. If it's wrong,
the cellist. Yeah.
Yes. Someone please correct me.
No, you got it.
Who is featured on all the soundtracks. And fun fact, Jason and I went to this weird Wonder Woman publicity event, and they trotted her out to play the theme for us, for everyone out there. And then they had drones setting off fireworks. It was super weird, but we did get to see her play the theme, which was really cool.
It's the only time I've seen somebody headbang while playing a cello.
Yeah. Oh no, she got into it.
It's cool. She's great. She's a very talented musician.
Do you guys know her history with like musicianship and playing the cello?
I do not.
Okay, so she grew up playing classical music, very, very like structured classical learning in Shanghai. And then she essentially moves to America. And I believe it was like on her first day, so the story goes,
right,
that she was in America. And the first person she met basically said, here, listen to this music. And it was heavy metal. And she just fell in love with heavy metal immediately because it was so completely departed from what she'd grew up learning. And so now she has this perfect hybrid of maybe 18 years of classical music and then the rest of her life spent on the other side of the musical spectrum, I suppose, in heavy metal.
That's crazy. Yeah, the Wonder Woman theme is very engaging. It's such a non-classical superhero theme.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you can't sing Wonder Woman to it.
Wonder Woman. Yeah. How do you do it?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder. Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it. Superman. Yeah.
I'll also say the theme is woefully underused in Wonder Woman 1984, in my opinion.
That is correct.
Woefully underused.
That is correct. And and it's so funny because that was scored by Hans Zimmer, the guy who wrote this theme.
Yeah. Well, no one's perfect.
That's correct. All right.
Just to we're talking about sort of heir apparents and proteges and stuff like that. I believe that Gregson Williams, that's who did the Wonder Woman score in general. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, he is Hans Zimmer. He's one of Hans Zimmer's, I think, proteges. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting that he is. I was talking about purely just from a listening to his music kind of position, but I didn't realize they were actually connected in that way.
I think they are. I could be wrong about that. I want to say that
I'll do some quick Googling.
Yeah, I could be wrong about that. But yes, because it was a little strange to,
It's Rupert Gregson Williams, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. We've been saying it completely wrong. I think there might be a Henry Queer Wilson. I don't know. Anyways, all good. Anyways, Andy, how about you slowly and melodically take us into the next one?
Definitely. I've been, whilst I've been conversing with you guys, I've been counting in my head, and it's actually 7/8. I'm going to get destroyed by all the musical buffs. It's actually in 7/8, so it starts 4/4 because that's the initial. But it starts a beat earlier on the next sequence, so it's actually 7/8 for anybody. I don't actually read music myself. I can't read notation, but I've just been counting it in my head.
You're the opposite of me. Like, I think it is witchcraft that you can pull these out of your brain, but I studied music, so I can read music. But if you ask me with a gun to my head to play it, I'm like, I can't if I can't see it. Okay, so just before we close this chapter, Rupert Gregson Williams, who composed Wonder Woman, is the younger brother of film composer Harry Gregson Williams. And is a member of Hans Zimmer's team of composers.
Yep.
They both are.
We
were all right.
We were getting the Gregson Williams brothers mixed up. We apologize, everybody.
Shout out to the brothers from Chichester.
They're both, wow, that's a talented family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Andy.
Great. Okay, so this isn't another curveball as such, but it might just might not be what people think of. I did want to be a little bit unusual with my pick. So here we go.
I know this one. Do you know it, Ashley?
I know the piece of music.
I love it because this is the amazing Basil Poldoris.
Is this Conan?
Nope. This is a movie that ends with a man saying Murphy.
Oh, Robocop. Oh, yeah.
This is the Robocop, yeah.
Yeah. There it goes.
Yeah.
Robocop.
And Superman. Oh, that would be a great movie. That would be a great movie.
I would be there day one. Robocop and Superman. Robocop and Superman. You know what? I will allow this one. I know he was a movie character first.
But he does have comics.
But he is very entrenched in comic books world. Frank Miller even wrote his sequel. So, Andy, what made you pick this one?
This is one of those where themes like this and Terminator and I guess on the more melodic side, movies like Big and Mighty Ducks, they all played a part in me realizing that they say that scent memory is the most powerful memory. Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to remembering movies and like picturing movies in your mind, that it's all about the score. And as soon as they sort out smell-o-vision, everything's going to change. But basically, when I think, I have these scores ingrained from watching them as a child, and this one. So I hadn't played this score ever on the piano prior to this. Getting, a few days ago when I started getting my picks ready, I knew I decided to go with this one, and I'll tell you how I learnt this score. Was I went, oh, I know it. That's all it was. It was as if my brain had been just parking it somewhere.
It was like, we're gonna
just
need
ready
this
for my hands to play
someday.
it. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a testament to my childhood, to my parents who, my dad's told me you can watch any movie you want, no matter what the rating. If you get nightmares, man, it's your fault. And so I watched Nightmare on Elm Street and Jaws and Ghostbusters 2, which is the one that had the most effect on me because that Viggo Carpathian is horrible. But basically I watched all these types of movies. I definitely shouldn't have watched Robocop when I did, but I must have watched it at 5 years old. And that theme, and the thing about this particular theme is, although it's a marching theme, it has that militaristic sort of tempo to it. I always find that because it's the 80s and because things like metronomic scores weren't really a thing. So I feel like the beat and the melody are slightly adjacent to each other. So it's kind of, well, maybe adjacent's not the right word, adjacent Inman. But basically it feels like you're kind of stumbling. If you picture a marching band like walking with their back straight and their chest up, this score feels like it's someone with their chest forward, like leaning, and they're kind of stumbling forward. Kind of just marching through as if their feet are a little bit heavier, and that is the weight of his metal suit, obviously. And I can picture that in my head. It's kind of the same thing as seeing colors when you hear notes and things. I really do picture that Robocop is heavier, and it's the music that has that, because I know they have the sound effects in the film, obviously, but yeah, there's just something about it that's ingrained in me. I didn't have to rewatch the film or even listen to the score again. It's just all in there from maybe the few times that I watched it as a child, and that's why it kind of, I had to have it on here. It's ingrained.
And I'm going to say this is, Robocop was one of our earliest GHLs.
It was the first.
It is the first GHL ever.
Besides
Should I have said that was the reason?
Besides the pilot episode, which isn't up on the feed anymore.
Well, I was going to say that what Andy just said is exactly right. Like, Robocop is one of those weird films, and it's so weird that it's Robocop, but it's like a complete package in one. It's from the acting to the story to the look to the music to the feel, like
to the commentary that it's providing.
It is like, yeah, I agree with everything you said. Like, as soon as I heard that music in my head, I was like, yeah, I hear his walking sound effect where he goes,
yeah,
hands up, punk.
Oh, that was such a good impression.
You're coming with me, dead or alive.
Admiral Robocop
I think
is what we call him.
Put the Liverpudlian to bed and just do the Robocop one.
I don't know, maybe you're coming with me. Dead or alive, I don't know, maybe. Paul McCartney and Robocop would be a great movie.
Can't wait to have you back for the best Beatles songs.
But no, you're so right, man. Basil Pordoris is a guy. A lot of people always ask me, like, what do I consider to be like the greatest film score of all time? And I always say it's Conan the Barbarian. Like, it's Basil Pordoris' Conan the Barbarian, because it's like such a journey. And Basil Pordoris also scored what I think is the greatest Western of all time, Lonesome Dove. He's a composer that a lot of people, and I think it's because he's been deceased for quite a while now, a lot of people sleep on. And his scores is also his score for another Paul Verhoeven film, Starship Troopers. The score to Starship Troopers is fantastic, and it kind of has the same tones and feels really as Robocop. Yeah. Very military, very marching, stuff like that. Man, great choice, Andy. Excellent choice on throwing a Robocop curveball in here.
Thank you. Yeah, and this score in the movie, if people wanted to go and listen to the, put the movie on and try and listen for the score. The score doesn't show up that often, and that I think that always shows you how impactful a score is. That is kind of in the zeitgeist, it's instantly recognizable, but actually it appears. It's half of it appears as he steps out of the car for the first time. And I think the other, when he like shoots up the coke den, it appears in full. But it's set so far back in the mix because it was in that era of explosives and sound effects, and the score composers weren't really looked after that much in the 80s, and it's set really deep in the mix. So I would go and just listen to it as it's a really beautiful score. Away from that melody, there are some beautiful sequences in there. I think I would implore people to just go and check out the score.
Yeah, I think
in Solus.
I think if you go to Spotify and you listen to the soundtrack, it's in the end credits. Like that's like the one place that you can find that main Robocop motif. All right. I'm excited to hear the next one.
Okay.
This one, Andy. Do you recognize this one, Ashley?
Maybe.
This is from what I think is an underrated superhero movie. You got it?
I think so.
Make a guess.
X-Men's.
That's correct. Which X-Men's?
Well, if it's one that's getting you to smile, it's First Class.
Yes, it is Matthew Vaughn's X-Men First Class. Is that is the composer? It's not Henry Jackman. It's
it is. You always think
Henry
it's
Jackman.
not.
It is Henry Jackman.
Yeah, because you always go, it's not Henry Jackman.
I always think Henry Jackman scored Days of Future Past, which is why the reason I get them mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that was John Ottman was Days of Future Past.
Look, it doesn't matter. We're talking about First Class.
We're talking about Henry Jackman.
Not Hugh, but Henry.
Yes, and neither of the Gregerson Williams brothers.
yeah, just Henry and his brother Hugh. Yeah.
I love this because this is Rage and Serenity.
That's right, Rage and Serenity.
Yeah, this is the moment in X-Men First Class where Charles gives Eric a happy moment to be able to use his powers because he's only been accessing his powers through rage. It's so interesting to me because I find that, especially the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, the scores tend to like sort of devolve into like techno gibberish orchestration. And so when I saw First Class and it sort of did these classic motifs and had these things and has this very aggressive, heavy metal guitar Magneto theme, it really like knocked me back.
Isn't there a possibly anachronistic story about the Magneto theme where they were like strip it back till it was just the guitar?
You can find it on the Blu-ray of X-Men First Class.
So not anachronistic.
No, yeah, there is a clip with Henry Jackman where he plays the first version of the Magneto theme. Now the Magneto theme in that movie is the one that's played over the end credits because it's the dunna 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 dunna. It's that hard one. It's the one that plays. Yes, it's that one, yes. Now, on the Blu-ray, there was like a much more brassy, much more James Bondian sounding theme. And when Matthew Vaughn, the director of First Class, heard it, he's like, yeah, I like it. And Henry Jackman goes like, what? And he goes, I like the bass theme, And so he stripped everything away from it. And that dunna, and what you were playing, Andy, is everything that was left. Yeah.
It's the music you got to kill Nazis to. It's just the law.
Yeah, but First Class, has an amazing Cerebro theme. They have an amazing theme when all the kids are training. But Rage and Serenity to me is like the best piece because it takes a little bit of the Charles theme that they have going throughout the soundtrack and it mixes it softly with the like a kind of a slower and more melodic version of that angry Magneto theme.
Yeah, this really, really, really tells a story. I think, Jason, you've probably listened to this way more than me, but is it about 2 minutes long, this particular track?
Yeah, it's about 2 or 3 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it just, it keeps the same chord structure, this F minor to C minor, G minor, and then this B flat, which comes in, and that's, I can tell already that Ashley likes her tritones, this dissonant
I do.
thing. And it keeps that, and it builds up slowly with the strings, and all of a sudden you get this like twinkly piano, almost like, I guess narratively it would be like an enlightening moment. It doesn't last long, and then you're into the electric guitar, which I guess is the Magneto instrument in the movie, and I love that kind of storytelling through orchestration. It's almost, you can see the conductor, if you imagine the string section's over on his left, and then the pianist is in the middle, and electric guitars are on the right, and obviously no one would set an orchestra up that way. Don't curse me for that. I'm just trying to tell a story. That's the narrative of that scene. He has a couple of themes that are named something and something, and they're all emotion based, I guess.
Yes.
But it does tell the story in 2 or 3 minutes of someone going from one feeling to another. It's a character arc across 3 minutes, and I think that is very, very accomplished composing. Beautifully done.
Yes, Henry Jackman is also, I think, a composer that a lot of people sleep on. He did an amazing score he's been Matthew Vaughn's kind of composer for a long time. He did the scores for Kick-Ass, and he scored both Kingsman movies.
That's right.
And the Kingsman
did he do
movies,
Winter Soldier as well?
Yeah. The Kingsman movies are like really good James Bond scores, so much so that I think they should probably give Henry Jackman a shot at one of the actual James Bond movies. I'd be interested to see like what he would bring to it or what he would do. But yeah,
that's really interesting. Yeah, Jackman for James Bond and
Jackman for James Bond. And also the other thing I love about Rage and Serenity is if you listen, you can hear Magneto and Robocop. Yeah, you can hear it. It's there.
And Paul McCartney.
So many new recurring characters this episode.
All right, Andy, let's go for another musical choice. I don't know. I'm not certain how many more we have.
We have 2 more. This is everyone's final picks.
All right, great.
Yeah. Anyway, 12-bar blues, but yeah.
the great thing about that
John
theme,
Barry was the first choice to score this movie. Fun fact.
classic James Bond composer.
Yeah.
It shows, yeah.
The great thing about this movie is if you listen to it and you hear in the score, you can hear Fantastic Four. Like it's in the score.
Nice.
This is, of course, Incredibles / I think I was like Incredibles or Incredibles 2, whatever you like.
Yeah,
I believe,
sure, yeah.
Because this is that's a snippet from they call it the end credits. I think, for it's the end credits.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about Giacchino, it's frustrating and it's awesome at the same time, is that Giacchino joke names all of his tracks. So when
he names them for himself and the people who have to deal with it before the movie's ever released. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you look at the soundtrack, sometimes it's impossible to find where that music is because it has a goofy title.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you guys would know this, but Giacchino would be really good at context clues on Settle the Score.
Oh yeah,
because they're all pun based. Yeah.
Well, I get it. He's probably like, putting out so many different alt tracks, and so like by the end of the day, he's like, I am going to name it to make me laugh because at the end of the day, I'm tired of it.
So this score is the award-winningest scores of the ones that I was aware of were going to be on this episode. Mm-hmm. It won the Los Angeles Film Critics Association Award, the BMI Film and TV Award, the ASCAP Film and Television Music Award, the Annie Award, the Las Vegas Film Critics Society Award, the Online Film Critics Society Award, and was nominated for a Grammy Satellite Award and Broadcast Film Critics Association Award.
Oh, it shows. Like it is like, especially in the Incredibles and Incredibles 1 when they're around the island, it is so James Bond. It's astounding. To be honest with you, I believe when I saw this movie in 2004, this is the movie and the piece of media that made me be like, who is that composer?
Did you also know that in an interview, Henry Jackman stated that his X-Men First Class score was inspired by John Barry?
Well, it sounds very James Bond as well. We have a lot of James Bond connections.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah. So this musically, this is in 5/4, which is the same as your kind of Mission Impossibles. The 5/4, that 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 like that. That's the kind of thriller kind of tempo that you want. It drives the score forward. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of keeps you wanting that extra beat, and then starting again keeps you wanting to move forward. It definitely raises the heart rate, your heartbeat. It raises it to the tempo of the track. So that's why that has a design. The John Barry thing. If anybody has a piano in front of them, play an F minor chord, then add the major 7th, and then add the major 9th, and that is every spy movie. That's his chord, the John Barry chord.
That is Sean Connery peeking around a corner in a hotel room in Jamaica,
with a spider crawling over his shoulder on a piece of glass.
Yeah. So I absolutely. I think the score's brilliant. Brad Bird is another director that, like Spielberg, thinks of the composer as an actor in the movie and gives them lines. Gives them space to read their lines. And I think it really shows. This score is
Ashley. This is your choice, correct?
It is my choice.
Why did you put this up here?
Because it's so good.
It is. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just curious.
It's a score. This is the first score where I knew who Giacchino was, and I remember reading in an interview that he went to like Harvard Night School, or he took like a correspondence course, basically. To get his degree, and being like, wow, and now he's making movies, which just proves that education is ephemeral, and you get as much out of it as you put into it. And I like this score a lot because you can listen to the whole soundtrack and you know what's happening. And I think it's because I like Broadway musicals. So if I'm gonna put it on to listen to, I want to listen to the whole thing, and I want to be transported, which can be difficult in some superhero scores, like in the third installment in Nolan's Batman trilogy. There's great songs on there, but I don't think the overall package is as good. Like the Catwoman theme is really, really good. And I also think because this is quote unquote a kids movie, because this is quote unquote like animation in like the derogatory way where people throw around the word animation. I think it gets to be more fun and take more chances than you could in a more mainstream live action, like an X-Men movie that would have been coming out around the same time. And I think there's a direct link between something like this and the Doctor Strange scores that we're getting now, or Spider-Verse. And I think Incredibles did a lot of things first, and I think the soundtrack is one of them, even though it's so throwbacky at the same time.
Yeah, but throwbacky sometimes is the best thing to do.
Nostalgia's a tight wire.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so we're down to the final one. Very interested to hear the music that's going to be coming over my headphones right now.
Is this a cheat?
No. I've gone mainstream. All right, here we go.
I'll have you know Jason's laughing right now.
I know what it is. Ashley, do you have a guess?
Nope.
This is Mr. Alan Silvestri. This is Tony's funeral from Avengers Endgame.
I was wondering if we were going to get an Avengers on here or not.
It's pretty good. Like that is actually one of the that is a really solid motif in that movie, because again, everybody usually the standout to that movie, of course, is the Avengers theme, which I think within game, has now become iconic. Andy, what made you select this Avengers Endgame piece for best superhero movie scores?
Yeah, this is one of those YouTubeable scores that I will just go and I'll watch the scene and have that kind of the chord progression kind of wash over me. I remember the emotion. I know we haven't really done a topic that requires a meet cute, and I know I used the Matt Nost one earlier, but my story with Endgame is kind of special to me because all the Avengers thing was ramping up. So towards Endgame, it was fever pitch, and my mum said to me, "I've never seen those Avengers movies. Would I like them?" And when my mum retired from work, she was very very successful businesswoman, and when she retired, she wanted to catch up on a lot of things. So we did the entire Rocky franchise together. She did all the Star Wars movies, and we would sit down and talk through them in a way to get her as passionate, 60 years later, basically. Mm-hmm. And with the Avengers, we basically did the whole thing, leading right up to our local cinema. Did Infinity War, Endgame back to back. And Endgame started at 1 minute past midnight. So what I did with my mum was I didn't think she'd stick out 2 movies, and essentially she'd be the only person in the cinema watching Infinity War for the first time, because everyone else is there just to like have the bleed over into Endgame. And so this incredible moment where the entire cinema knows what's going to happen, the snap in Infinity War, and my mum is gasping. And it's a beautiful moment to watch someone see that for the first time when you know it's happened. And we decided, I said to my mum, we'll buy the double feature, and then we won't go to Endgame because you'll need a night to process it. And then we go back the following night to Endgame. And we experienced Endgame together, having her gone through all 10 years of MCU movies. We watched Endgame together for the first time together. And that moment at the end with I Am Iron Man and the snap and then the music coming in, we just cried together. And it was the first time that my mum and I have seen a movie for the first time together since I was a kid, probably, go and see Aladdin or something. And it was so special that that score is now my favorite. And I know that's biased towards my own, but what is life if you're not going to, take your own experiences? So that's why Endgame is my endgame to this episode.
Andy, I thought that was quite lovely. And
thank you.
Since this episode will air, slightly after Mother's Day, we're going to allow it.
That's the only reason we're allowing it.
No, I think it was quite lovely. And I will say that theme is quite lovely. I will ask you, Andy, have you seen the alternate take of what happens after Tony's death, the deleted scene?
I don't think so, Jason. No,
okay, so you can find this. I think it's on Disney Plus, but they have in the movie, right, like Tony dies and then it goes right to the funeral, or goes like it kind of fades out and goes to the funeral, I believe I'm remembering right or incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
In the alternate take, and I actually prefer this.
They're taking the knee. That's what
yes, they all take a knee to Iron Man, who was the one that created this universe. And I, for me, to be honest with you, I'm like, that should have made the movie. But I understand.
Is the score the same? They use the score over taking the knee?
They use the score you're just playing, yeah. Like it actually begins when the first person takes a knee.
Which is Cap,
yeah.
Yeah, so I have watched it in both versions, and it has the same chilling impact to me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm completely with you, and I couldn't get there in my mind, but I knew I kind of had something. I just needed you to, yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I haven't gone and watched that version, but it has the same kind of power impact. And I think this, even though the score is quite melodic, it has that carpet effect where it is just... it's just putting something down to then place the scenes on top of it.
Yeah, the music is so powerful that it like kind of didn't matter what they put over it. Mm-hmm. Like it could have just been, Spider-Man checking his phone, and we would have been like, "Oh my god!" Like that Instagram. But no, I guess I sort of always liked the knee because it's very winking at the audience of like, oh, we're bowing to the person who like led this universe. But that piece of music is fantastic, and I think this episode has been fantastic.
I teased to you guys that there was a score that I thought borrowed from Stuart Little. This was off air. I don't think I said it at the top of the show. And I'm just going to play Stuart Little, which is also Alan Silvestri. I'm just going to quickly play it as a button on the end of this.
Oh boy.
On the end of this episode. And I believe that Silvestri has, he has tons of different styles that he uses. But I believe Stuart Little is what he listened to, his own score, when he came up with the Endgame score. And this is how it goes.
They're definitely very similar.
Yeah, there's definitely ways of doing like a hybrid version of those two. Yeah, for sure.
Well, Alan Silvestri, you ripped your own self off.
Oh yeah, why not?
Well, at least you did it in 2 movies that are not in the same genre.
Hey, if Aaron Sorkin can plagiarize himself, so can Alan Silvestri. So let's just go. You know, it's fine.
Also, who doesn't want to see I Am Stuart Little?
All right.
Stuart Little starring Hugh Laurie.
This has been a great episode. Ashley, let's talk a little bit about the recommended reading.
Yes, which is where if you go over to geekhistorylesson.com/recommended reading, we have these cute little Amazon widgets. You click them, you buy something, you steal from Jeff Bezos's pocket, and you put it back in our pocket. And today we are going to have
all 9 of the scores. Yeah,
soundtracks.
all those a bunch of scores for you to listen
Bunch
to.
of CDs.
Yeah, well, CDs, or you can buy the MP3s through Amazon as well.
Yeah, Amazon Music.
Yeah, you can do that. All right, that's really great. And then Ashley, I think we're going to have a real quick addition to the GHL honor roll, correct?
It is. What's the honor roll, Jason?
Well, the honor roll, everybody, if you go over to Apple Podcasts, you leave us a 5-star review, you tell us how awesome you thought Andy's piano playing was. Not only do you help us in the iTunes algorithm, the Apple Podcast algorithm, whatever they're calling it these days, we'll read your review live on the air. You can write whatever you want. And today, who is entering?
Today, CX3 is joining, and they say, my favorite podcast. I love this podcast so much.
It's very simple.
Short and sweet and to the
Very
point.
sweet.
We love.
Welcome.
What's going on in the Teacher's Lounge?
Well, Professor Merryweather is here. Mm-hmm. He's a full professor now.
What does he teach?
Music, of course. Piano.
Composition?
I don't know. Astrophysics. Do you want to teach astrophysics, Andy?
I'll stick with the piano.
He's over there in the corner, and he's playing some licks, and everybody's enjoying it. So
Nice.
yeah. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Don't forget you can download and subscribe to us on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you can find us. Andy, where can the lovely listeners, the Mind University students, find you online? And please let them know about Settle the Score one last time.
Yeah, so Settle the Score, Matt Nost hosts it. You might know him from the Schmodown and things like that. He's a comedian, very, very funny, quick on his feet, and he hosts brilliantly. And he refers to me as the musical director, which I'm honored. Less of a co-host. I just kind of awkwardly smile and then play some piano. But yeah, it's a Name That Tune style show, but with movie scores and soundtracks. And I highly recommend if you're going to watch for the first time, go and check out Jason Ashley's episode. It was brilliant.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. It's on YouTube is where you can watch the video.
Oh yeah, I didn't do that because I'm not very good at that.
Audio versions, and then don't forget to shout out your Twitter, sir.
Yeah, so youtube.com/Matt Nost to watch the show or Settle the Score on wherever you get your podcasts. Mm-hmm. And my thing, if you want to come and say hi, is at @STS_Andy M.
That's right. So everybody go over there and follow him quickly. You can follow Ashley on Instagram and Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jawiin. And Ashley, do we have a hashtag stick around? We made sure that everybody stuck through the plugs. Ashley's facial expression tells me that we do not. So I'll make one up on the spot. Here we go. Andy, what do you think? What was the most difficult song to play of all the choices today?
Ooh.
Because why'd you give me Spider-Verse?
No, that's really that. Oh, Into the Spider-Verse was tricky to pull out what I might play without just going into full rap and beatboxing. So yeah, I guess that was the trickiest, not in terms of technical ability, just to know where Ashley wanted me to sort of find a score and put it. It's not very melodic, but the chord sequence is as beautiful as the rest of them. So I guess that was the trickiest. And if when you put out this show, if people want to comment what the name of my piano should be, I'd love that.
Oh, I had a thought.
Go for it.
Oh, great.
I was going to recommend that you call her Polly because Polyhymnia was the muse of sacred poetry and music.
Polly is a great. It's done. Polly the piano.
You know,
Absolutely.
it sounds like Paul McCartney.
You spelled Pauly.
You call me Polly. Actually, he was called Macca by John Lennon. Anyways, Andy, this has been a lovely episode. I hope if we ask you in the future to come back for a different score-themed episode that you consider it. And that you don't hate us.
100%. It was so nice to be asked on, and yeah, anytime you want me back, no problem at all.
Well, there you go, listeners. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today on Geek History Lesson.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And for sticking around for Geek History Lesson X.
Yes, everybody. Don't forget patreon.com/Jawiin, Jawiin. We'll have another episode of the exclusive Geek History Lesson podcast over there where you support the show and you can listen to more Andy. We're going to be talking more best superhero scores and all kinds of things like that. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I am Jason, sometimes Paul McCartney, Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson, and Professor Jason, would you please dismiss the class?
I don't think we can dismiss the class. I think we need to hear a musical riff from the newly named Paulie to slowly take us off the air.